Craig, I understand you just wanted to make monsters?
That was it, yeah. It started with when I was a little kid, I saw the original Planet of the Apes movie, and I said to myself, I want to be a monkey too. Not really kind of realizing the context of what I was saying, but I went out and I got this monster makeup handbook from a magazine called Famous Monsters of Filmland, and after a couple of years, I perfected a Planet of the Apes makeup, and that's kind of how it got started. And I had so much fun transforming myself into a Planet of the Apes person. And I realized that when you put on these makeups, that you become this other character, and it was really fun to jump and do the stuff like that. And so I just thought, this is what I want to do. And that started like around like from the 5th grade on out. I knew this is what I wanted to do.
And so you thought you could actually make a career from that, or did you have other aspirations, or your family?
Oh no, I just wanted to come down here and make monsters, but my mom thought that that's impossible, and so she asked me to. She said maybe I should get a real job so I can have something to fall back on. And what I was doing at the time, when I was in high school, I was doing this thing it was a community resource training program through high school, and I was up at the local hospital working in the x-ray department for several hours every day. And so I learned the basics of x-ray, and I thought, wow, this is a pretty cool profession. And it to me, it tied in well with monster making because it had physiology and anatomy, and I thought, that's important to know as a monster maker, how things move. And so I went ahead and I went to school to became an x-ray technologist. And then I moved down here, and 2 weeks later I got a job working on a movie called Metal Storm: The Destruction of Jared's Sin. And I didn't have to do x-rays ever again. So, yeah.
How is it different to break into the film industry today versus the 80s or 90s?
Wow. I wouldn't want to try it now. It seems like it's there's a lot of competition out there. I think this is kind of a weird multi-answer because like a lot of the technology that's available to learn now wasn't available back in the day. We just kind of had to figure it out. And now there's schools that you can go to learn this stuff. That makes it kind of cool. I think it was probably easier for me to break in back in those days because I was very lucky that I came into the business right at what now they're calling the golden age of monsters in the 80s, and there were a lot of things that still needed to be figured out for monsters, and so we were there figuring them out, and we just kind of rode that wave, and I would say there was about 200 or 300 people that we enjoyed a very good living in the 80s and 90s, making rubber monsters, so to speak. But nowadays, there is there are schools that we go to. I know that there are other places where maybe a company such as Legacy Effects. I don't know this to be true, but I imagine they get just literally hundreds and hundreds of people applying for them all the time. I don't think that was the case back in the 80s. I think it was just a handful of people who wanted to come be monster makers and not thousands of them. So I think there's more competition today, but at the same time, what I find out is that my students are very passionate about this and they just want to do it. They will go out and they will get jobs and they will do it. And so that's pretty cool. I think there's a lot about it. A lot of it comes from your personal passion for what your craft is. And if you have that passion, it doesn't matter what else you're going to do in your life. That passion is going to drive you through to succeed in that. At least that's what it has been for me. Plus, doing stuff like this is so much fun. It is like if people pay you to make a toy and then play with it on screen, it doesn't get much better than that, So here, make a puppet and now play with it while we record you. Okay, I'm there. So.
What do you see as the positives of competition? I know we always hear the negatives and people give up. What are the positives?
I think it forces people to be more creative in the end. I think competition makes you constantly thinking about how to do something better, and I think that's a great thing. I think that because that's driving that will drive the industry and the craft forward, both creatively, artistically, and technology-wise. I think that's always a good thing for competition. I think friendly competition is great. Non-friendly competition where you're just trying to eliminate people and stuff like that, obviously not so good. But yeah, I think competition in the end is actually a good thing to help drive the industry forward. So, I guess.
I know there's more
like
we
a
could.
crazy answer there. Like,
Well,
okay,
no.
cut that one out.
No, actually, I like that because I think with competition, there's some that thrive on it, and maybe if you're more of an introverted artist type,
Right.
it actually repels you and sickens
It can
you.
do that, yeah. And that's one of the things with my students is one of my main jobs here is to build up their confidence level so that they feel that they have the confidence and the ability. They have the ability. They will get it, and it comes. But then it's a matter of getting their confidence levels to the point where it matches their skills. And so, but I have a lot of tricks, and that seems to be working with most of them. So,
What do you teach your students about breaking into the business?
one of the first things I tell students, and I will tell this in open houses and stuff, I say, it's who you know that gets you in the door, but it's what you know that keeps you in that door. So there's absolutely networking in the entertainment business is so important and so valuable, because I would say most of my jobs that I've gotten in the entertainment business they came from people that I previously worked with or people that I knew. I think like a good case and example is I was working at Digital Domain for James Cameron, a very prominent effects person down at Digital Domain, a guy named Jim Hillen, who was the creator of the original ballroom scene from Beauty and the Beast. He was working there. He got called back to work at Disney on Dinosaur and break some new ground on that movie. And then a couple months later, he called me and asked me if I wanted to go work at Disney. And I went, great. And so I ended up at Disney for 15 years, and we pioneered a lot of the character animation systems that are being used today. But if I hadn't known Jim, I would have never gotten that call. So it's definitely, networking is so important, and that's one of the things that we focus on here at the New York Film Academy is networking, and we have networking events. And like we were talking about earlier in the class, a lot of my students get jobs working for other students here during classes, and after they graduate, they carry on and they get professional jobs from them. So absolutely, the networking is important, but you need to know how to do it too. And learning from my best advice is if you can learn from people who are current working professionals in the industry, which all of my instructors are, thank goodness. That's a plus, because you're going to be learning the stuff that's being done in the industry today and not 10 years ago. And so because it's such, this industry, the paradigms in this industry, it changes so fast. It's completely different than it was even 2 years ago. So
I'm curious, what can you advise a person about networking? Sometimes, coming from another state or wherever, you're very eager, but there's sort of a protocol in how to do things in this town. And just sort of making sure that if you are attempting to network, that you do it in a way where you're not maybe pushing people off.
I think that networking is best done like in a kind of for me, like a casual setting, is where you're just shooting the bowl with people, and you're just like in a casual, very, very casual, non-threatening atmosphere. I think that's the best place. I don't think it's what you don't want to do, in my opinion, that turns a lot of people off, and it definitely turns me off, is like I'll meet somebody, and within 2 minutes they're pitching me their story and their ideas and their stuff, and I'm like, I want to get to know that person first. I want to know who that person is and what they're like, and And I think they should know who you are too, so to see if you even make a connection first and then go. But it's all about, it's just, I think common sense really rules the day here. So, and just not being rude to people, just being nice and open-minded. So I hope that's good.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Don't worry, we don't have like a meter that says wrong answer.
Okay,
Yeah,
no,
this isn't game. This isn't quiz show. Yeah. I think one thing that you talked about is that you had done something where you swept floors for 2 weeks and reorganized
that
a closet.
was what you were talking about.
And you said that you knew where everything was.
That's true.
And then they couldn't get rid of you because now you knew. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah. That was that. Yeah. When I first started, I worked at a place up here in the valley called Makeup Effects Labs, and they said, well, we don't have any work for you right now, but we might have work in a couple weeks, but you're welcome to work for free, which is always like a double-edged sword, right? But I said, okay, I'll do it. And so what I did is I cleaned the shop, and then they said, could you reorganize the shop? And so I did. I reorganized the whole shop. And by the end, like you were saying, I was the only person who knew where everything was. So I became indispensable because, like, hey, where are the tongue depressors? Oh, well, they're over here. You know. And actually, it was completely unintentional, but it worked really well.
And is that something that, I know it's faux pas, especially to intern and not be paid, and I understand why.
Oh, sure.
But at some point, though, I think because it's so competitive, we need to know, is this someone that is worth bringing in? I know it's a touchy subject on we've covered it before.
Yeah.
I don't know in this day and age how viable that is to intern for free.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, actually, I think it is viable. I think because if you're agreeing to, like, okay, so like I think like a good internship, a good unpaid internship is something that's going to last like maybe 3 or 4 months, 8 weeks of 3 or 4 months. I don't think an unpaid internship for 6 months, I think that maybe the person might be getting taken advantage of by that point. But of course, that just depends on the situation. But I think that the shorter internships, and if they're doing them for free, I think it's only going to take a few weeks or 8 weeks or something to determine whether or not that person is capable of doing that job. And so I think I think that's probably, from my opinion, is like the best way of doing it, is to do shorter internships. We have internships here that our students run that they will run like the entire semester, so that's about 15 weeks or so. But usually the internships, they don't start up right away. They start up like within the first 2 or 3 weeks, so it's not like a full 15-week internship type thing. But yeah, absolutely. If I recommend internships and working, because the knowledge you get from being there and working there is equal or more value of what you're going to get in a classroom, I feel, because you're being exposed to real world experiences and real world problem solving, and so that becomes very important, and that's the perfect place, is to actually go do it in a real workplace.